I'm enjoying another benefit this year. I have my own tomato plants, and I have an abundance of tomatoes. This is some of them. There are still more out there, ripe, ready to pick. I've been trying to find ways to use my tomatoes, and something I decided to try doing was to modify my trout with mushrooms and tomatoes recipe. That's on YouTube. I'll try to remember to put a link down below. Modify that for shrimp, because it sounds like it would be good for shrimp. You could even do it with chicken. It would be delicious. So let's make shrimp with pasta. That's the other thing, is I want to make this with pasta. So let's make shrimp with pasta. I want to peel and seed my tomatoes. You need about 4 to 6 fresh tomatoes. I actually like to use Roma tomatoes, but these are fresh from the garden, and you can't beat fine ripened tomatoes. They're so much better than the tomatoes in the store. Okay, take the stem end out, and then I want to cut an X in the bottom of these. I've got a pan of water coming to the boil on the stove. Going to pierce these with a fork and then immerse these in the boiling water for 20-30 seconds to loosen that skin. Then I can peel the skin off easily. These have had a chance to cool a little bit, and now the skin should just, as you can see, peel right off. Because basically by putting it in the boiling water, you're just cooking the flesh right under the skin. Look how easily that peels off. Okay, that's the skin off. And if I didn't mention it, you want enough water in that pan to completely submerge the tomato in the boiling water. Then I'm going to cut them in half through the middle, the equator. And I'm going to seed them. Okay, and then to seed these, you can squeeze the seeds out. I just use a little paring knife and just kind of encourage the seeds out. I don't know that this is absolutely necessary. I just think it makes for a cleaner looking dish if you can get the seeds out and the skin off. It's all about presentation, I guess. Okay, that's 1/2 of one tomato. I have my others to do here. And this will take me a few minutes. I have my shrimp here. I have 1.5 pounds or about 680 grams of shrimp. I bought the really large ones, colossal, because one thing I like to do, and I won't do it to all of these because the big ones look good in the dish as well as the cut ones. I like to cut down the middle, down the center of the shrimp, and cut it into 2 pieces like that, because they curl up, I think, really nicely in the dish. I'm only going to do maybe 1/2 dozen of these that way. The rest I'll leave whole. I need 3 to 4 small to medium mushrooms. I think these are kind of large, so I'm going to actually chop these into smaller pieces like so. And I have 3 of these that I need to cut up. You need pasta for this dish. You can use spaghetti, linguine, angel hair pasta. I wouldn't use something small like orzo, but probably even get away with penne. Whatever you like for pasta, as long as it's not too small. I mean, elbow macaroni might be just on the edge. I'm going to make my own pasta because I want pappardelle, but you can buy pappardelle in the store. I just like making pasta myself. I think it's fun. I have a video and a recipe for making pasta from scratch. Again, I'll try to remember to link that below so you can watch it if you're interested on YouTube. I'm going to just try to push this wide a little bit. because I want it about the width of my machine here. If I have to, I can run this through again after I fold it to get it a little bit wider. And I think I'm going to fold. Nah, I'm going to do it this way. I think it'll be okay. And I'll just cut it a little differently so that I end up with the pappardelle that I want. All right, there's my sheet of pasta. Pappardelle. I'm gonna fold this in half, and then I'm gonna cut it at an angle so that I can cut my pappardelle. That's a little narrow. I can go a little bit wider, like that. So they're long, flat noodles. Let's see if I can get this more to the center. They don't have to all be alike, some narrower than others. It gives it a more homemade, I think, rustic look. And then lightly dust it with flour so that it doesn't stick together. In the meantime, I'm heating water on the stove to boil these. Homemade pasta will cook in a minute or two. Cooks very quickly. If you're using store-bought dry pasta, you want to cook that a little bit, obviously, longer. Just follow package directions. 10, 12 minutes, whatever they recommend. I'm heating a skillet over medium heat. I'm going to put a couple tablespoons or so of olive oil. This is regular cooking olive oil, not extra virgin, although I'm not going to be cooking at a high enough temperature to burn extra virgin olive oil, but nonetheless, I prefer to cook with cooking olive oil. I can put my mushrooms in there first because I think it was Dan Souza of America's Test Kitchen who said you can't overcook mushrooms. Supposedly there's a chemical compound in them that's the same as the compound in lobster shells. And you can cook them tender, but supposedly they can't overcook. So I'm going to get those cooking for a few minutes until they're tender. Those are looking pretty good. They're about done. I've got some basil leaves here. You can cut them up. I'm just going to break them up with my fingers. I'm going to put that fresh basil in there. Love the smell of fresh basil. No need to be fancy here. If you want to cut it up into a julienne or a chiffonade, you certainly can. But I'm not looking for anything too fancy. And then I'm going to add my tomatoes. And those tomatoes, I'm not going to cook them down into a sauce, but just kind of cook them for a minute or two just to get them a little bit tender. And while those are cooking, I'm going to put some garlic in there. What did I do with my knife? I'll grab another one. Stir that in there. I'm going to turn my heat down a little bit. All right. Needs some moisture, so I'm going to put in a little bit of dry sherry. Maybe a quarter cup, 60 milliliters. Not much. Oh, that looks nice. That's looking good already. Gonna grind some black pepper in there. And now I'm gonna add the shrimp, because the tomatoes are looking good. And I only want to cook these shrimp until they're turning pink. So there's a whole shrimp. You can see what that looks like. But then one of the cut up shrimps that I've cut in half, those curl up really well, which is why I like to cut shrimp in half. Going to take the heat off of this. I've got 1/2 cup, 120 milliliters of heavy cream or whipping cream, heavy whipping cream. I'm going to put that in there. Oh, look at that. That is just beautiful. And that cream was cold from the refrigerator, so this might need reheating. But I'm going to get out my infamous red handle tasting spoon. Taste my sauce. As expected. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. It's going to need some salt. I'm going to put a pinch of salt in there. I'm excited about this. It looks so good. Okay, that is perfect. Put a lid on that. Meanwhile, my water is boiling, so I'm going to put my pasta in the water. So here's my cooked pappardelle. These are big pieces, so you don't need many on a plate. And then spoon some of my shrimp and sauce over the top. Make sure I get a nice helping of sauce. Maybe put a couple of shrimp on top. And then finally you can garnish this with a little extra leaf or two of fresh basil. Let's see, a little bit more maybe. Get a piece over there. Get some over here. Well, that looks good. And there it is. Shrimp with pasta. Gonna taste this and see what it's like. Oh boy, this looks good. And I love pasta anyways. So I'm gonna get one of my pieces of pasta, some sauce here. One of my shrimps. That's delicious, and yes, that's a plane going overhead. I live near the airport. It'll be noon in another 10-15 minutes, so excuse me. I'm going to go enjoy my lunch of shrimp and pasta.